Hey, our upgrade pace is looking solid right now, but I do think we need to push harder if we want to stay competitive. Here's the report.
What is up, people, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode here at the British Grand Prix, my home Grand Prix, of course, for round 10 of this first season. And if you have missed any of the previous episodes so far, go catch up with the card annotation in the top right hand corner of your screen. You will find the previous episode in Austria and, of course, the whole entire playlist as well. But quickly looking at the development comparison amongst the rest of the team, it's quite interesting to see that all the other teams are developing at different rates around me, and it will also be interesting to see sort of when we will start to overtake other teams in the development race. We just have to wait and see for that. Hopefully we do overtake a team by the end of the season. But straight away, jumping into the practice sessions at a very wet and rainy Silverstone circuit, getting purple score in the track acclimatization. But unfortunately, because we were running a really worn engine in that first practice session, we couldn't do any of the other tests there, so we just had to do the track acclimatization, being right down at the bottom in the first practice session. But jumping into the next one, going out on a set of soft tyres, doing the tyre wear management, and I think we're going to get a purple score here as well as we come through the final corner nice and easy down towards the line. And there we go, purple score in this session, and that's another 50 points added to the tally, currently up in 10th place in the standings. But then we jumped out once again, doing the fuel test this time around, coming through the final corner, taking it nice and easy this time around, just about beating the time there, but also getting the purple score, which is what we like to see. More resource points in the bank, and hopefully this will really help us to get a new upgrade by the time we head into maybe Hungary or Belgium. But heading through the final couple of corners once again, this time around doing the qualifying test. As you can see, I'm throwing it into the final couple of corners now across the line. Unfortunately, it's not quite enough for the purple score in the qualifying test here today, but we get the green one. That's 30 points added to the tally, and that is 14th place in FP2, quicker than my teammate of Nico Hulkenberg, but only just. And we were also on much better tyres. We were on the super softs, he was on the mediums. But that was it for the practice sessions. Unfortunately, the rain came down once again for FP3, which meant that we couldn't actually do the race strategy one because I'm actually really bad in the rainy conditions. So unfortunately, that was the case in that session. But at the end of the day, P14, we will be looking to improve on that, and hopefully we can do so as we head over to the qualifying sessions.
It's a Saturday afternoon here at Silverstone, and that means it's time for today's qualifying. Enjoy the action.
Here we go then, qualifying time at my home Grand Prix here in Britain as we come around the final corner now for our first lap here in Q1. Across the line, was the time going to be good enough for us? A 1:31.458, which at the moment is better than Fernando Alonso, but not exactly the best of times. Down 7th place, we come around the final couple of corners once again here for our second lap, and it's going to be about 2 tenths up on our previous best lap time of 1:31.1 here today. Again improving, but not improving in the timesheet. Still staying in 7th place now, drop down into P8. So we come around the final corner once again, this time for lap number 3. What's the time going to be this time around? And it is a 1:30.958. So every single lap we are improving. That is because of these new cars. Of course, we're just getting used to them and how hard we can push, especially through the really high-speed sections of Max and Becker's. But around the final corner now, 4 tenths quicker. And is that enough to get us out of Q1 and into Q2? Yes, it is. Thankfully, we are up into P15, just about scraping through there into the next qualifying session. As you can see, I'm running a new helmet for this weekend, a special one for the British Grand Prix with red, blue and white. But 15th place at the end of the day in Q1, just about scraping through there, and only missed out on Kevin Magson's time by 1/1000th of a second. So we're not too far away from the other midfield drivers. But round the final corner now for our first lap here in this Q2 session, and we're not actually setting a time. This is our only lap in this Q2 session. So here we go, down in towards turn 2 and into turn 3 now, down towards the loop section. Nice and tidy so far, hitting all of our apexes, maybe losing the back end ever so slightly through turn 3, but in towards the loop. Nice exit out of this corner. You don't want to lose the back end too much through there and put down the power too early. Also, you want to take it nice and smooth down onto towards the Wellington straight, because you really want to maximize your speed there. Now down towards Brooklands and Lovefield. I was braking between the 100 and the 50 meter board. Some people are able to brake a little bit later, but I wasn't as confident on the brakes here today. But in towards Lovefield, nice and tidy, taking us on a later apex, running it a little bit too wide there on the XL. The corner, had to correct myself just a little bit, but so far it's not looking too bad on this lap. In towards Cops Corner, nice and flowing. You can take that flat out even in this Renault, which is absolutely crazy in this season. Through Max and Becker's flat out through the first two, and then lifting off through the second part, then the right down towards 6th gear, and then back on the throttle once again as we go through Chapel on towards the hangar straight now. DRS open on the run down in towards Stowe. What is the time going to be good enough for? At the moment, so 105.7 as we go in towards the third sector through Stowe. Once again, nice and smooth, nice and tidy in towards the Club and Vale section now, breaking a 100-meter board, getting the car turned in for the left, then the right, using all the track available on the left-hand side, turning at the end of the curbing, hitting the apex, down across the line, and what is that lap time going to be good enough for? Will that get us into the Q3 session? Unfortunately not. It's only good enough for P12 at the end of the day, and unfortunately that is out of the qualifying sessions at my home Grand Prix. But in better news, we did manage to beat Nico Hulkenberg in the qualifying session as well. He only finished down in P14, so a good lap there, beating Nico Hulkenberg by 0.2 of a second, and we'll be looking to sort of make up some ground in the race and maybe get into the points here today. That is the goal, of course, get into the points and beat the two Force India drivers, because of course Renault are battling Force India in the Constructors' Championship. But can we do it? Let's find out as we head over to the race for the British Grand Prix.
It's not going to be plain sailing for our drivers today, although with the sky falling as it is, perhaps sailing isn't too far from the truth. Anthony Davidson, could be a wet one today. Great to have you with us. What are your thoughts?
It is a touch damp, isn't it? Well, as a driver, there are three big things to worry about when racing in these kind of conditions: standing water, tyre temperature and visibility. Judging distance to the cars around you is really tricky when you're driving through the vast amounts of spray that these wet weather Pirelli tyres kick up.
But before we get into today's race, let's run you through the starting order for the British Grand Prix. And lining up in pole position, it is Kimi Räikkönen with Lewis Hamilton alongside him on the first row. Then on the second row, it's a Williams lockout with Felipe Massa in third and Lance Stroll fourth. Ricciardo's in fifth with Bottas in sixth thanks to a penalty. Then it's Max Verstappen in seventh with Sergio Perez eighth. Vettel's in ninth with Ocon in 10th. Max in 11th. Then it's myself in 12th. Roman Grosjean 13th. Nico Hulkenberg 14th. Kvyat 15th. Stoffel Van Dorn 16th. Then it's Pascal Wehrlein in 17th. Marcus Ericsson 18th. With Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz right down at the back of the field for today's race. So what can we do from down in 12th place in today's race? Well, I can tell you the rain is chucking it down once again. As I said, back in FP1. We're not exactly the best in the wet weather conditions, unfortunately. Been really struggling, not only in this race, but also across this whole season in the wet weather conditions. We did okay, I suppose, at the Chinese Grand Prix. We did manage to make up a bit of ground, but it takes me a while in the race just to sort of get used to the wet conditions and sort of knowing where I can push and where I have to back off. So unfortunately, it's just going to be a bit of a learning curve for the first couple of laps in today's race, but hopefully we can make some ground and maybe get into the points. But looking at the race strategy, it's a fairly simple one with the one stop, but the rain staying with us for the whole entire race. We are going to lower our fuel, so we are running a Lee mix for most of the race. But let's get into the British Grand Prix. The lights are coming on now. It's 5 red lights, and we are underway for the British Grand Prix. My home Grand Prix, of course. We need to get a decent result, but losing the back end massively on the start there, and that's nearly put myself into the wall before we've even got down towards turn 1. There's a huge old collision down in towards turn 1. Everybody's going slowly. I'm going to take advantage on that and just overtake a few drivers. Unfortunately, we did get a warning for overtaking 3 drivers illegally, so we give that position back to Bottas, but then it seems to be all okay. But Sergio Perez does manage to sneak through there, so we're up into P8 at the moment. So despite having that awful start, losing the back end, we've managed to work our way back up into P8 for the time being. The yellow flags have gone back in, which means the incident down towards turn 1 has sort of resolved itself nice and fine. So we've now got Sebastian Vettel all over our tail. Not a good qualifying session there for Sebastian Vettel, but he'll be hoping to make up into the race. We've blocked up down in towards Brooklands and Luffield. That's running very wide in towards the section of corners. Overtaken by Vettel, overtaken by Ocon. I think we've had a tap in the rear as well there from Kevin Magnussen. As we lose the back end, a little bit of contact once again with the Haas driver. And Kevin Magnussen, unfortunately, does get the job done on us and moves up into P10 for the time being. So unfortunately, once again, back on the outside of the points as we go down in towards Cops Corner, and unfortunately not in the points for today. All that work we did at the start, you know, sneaking past those drivers, and unfortunately we're back down where we started. But let's have a look at a replay of the start and see exactly what happened to the drivers ahead of us. So unfortunately it looks like Lance Stroll got involved despite starting P4 for today's race. It looks like he was involved with contact there with a Red Bull driver, which I believe is Daniel Ricciardo, and unfortunately for him, he's put sideways. A little bit of a front left to rear right, and unfortunately he's blocking everybody's path. Then he just sort of reverses onto the gravel, and then it looks like he may be reversing back onto the track, which he does, and makes contact with the Toro Rosso, and then Fernando Alonso, I believe that is, just drives straight into him. So I'm not too sure what on earth Lance Stroll was doing there, reversing into the other drivers. But let's have a look on board now with the Williams driver down towards turn 1. It's not exactly too bad of a start there from Lance Stroll. Not the best, not exactly Felipe Massa, who gets a great start down towards turn 1. He puts him side by side with Daniel Ricciardo, and there we go, like I said, front left to rear right. Unfortunately, that puts Lance Stroll into a sort of half spin and just blocks the rest of the track, and everybody's just sort of pushing him out the way as they want to get on with their own races. As we're watching on board with Lewis Hamilton, I think there was contact as well for the Mercedes driver down in towards turn 1. He's down in 5th position at the moment. So what happened to him down into turn 1? The same thing, not quite as bad as what happened between Stroll and Ricciardo, but enough to put Lewis Hamilton off the track. And yeah, unfortunately for Lewis Hamilton, that puts him way down in 5th position, even though he had the chance of maybe overtaking Kimi Raikkonen down in towards turn 1 and turn 2. But cutting ahead onto lap 2 of today's race, and Max Verstappen now coming under pressure from Lewis Hamilton in this British Grand Prix. Of course, he wants to do a good job for the home fans as well, as he goes up the inside, down in towards Stowe. Can he pull off this manoeuvre? Yes, he can. Lewis Hamilton up into 4th position now for the British Grand Prix, and he'll be hunting down Daniel Ricciardo and Felipe Massa ahead of him, and then hopefully for himself try and catch up to Kimi Raikkonen as well. So we've got this battle for second that goes all the way down to 6th position right now. There is a slight gap between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen at the moment, but they're all being held up by Felipe Massa. Lewis Hamilton goes up the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, down in towards Stowe. Looks like Valtteri Bottas also has gone for the overtake on Max Verstappen. I keep on getting the two names confused. I don't know why I keep on doing that, but Felipe Massa holding up these guys has allowed Lewis Hamilton to move up into 3rd place and Valtteri Bottas into 5th. And there we go, getting confirmation of that now as Lewis Hamilton is going on the attack of Felipe Massa. What can he do? Can he do a similar move down in towards Stowe? It looks like that is his favourite overtaking spot of today's race. He's done it on Max Verstappen, he's done it on Daniel Ricciardo, but can he now do it on Felipe Massa? Here he goes, down the hanger straight, down towards Stowe. Doesn't look like it, as he's made it. No, he's going to try it around the outside. Can he do it? Lewis Hamilton around the outside, down through Stowe. What a fantastic overtake that is here today to move up into 2nd place and now hunt down the lead from Kimi Raikkonen. There is a big old gap now to the leader of Kimi Raikkonen, but I think that Lewis Hamilton is going to push on, try his best to try and catch up to the Ferrari driver, and we'll just have to wait and see whether he can do it or not. But that puts Lewis Hamilton up into 2nd, Felipe Massa in 3rd at the moment. Then you've got Daniel Ricciardo in 4th, Valtteri Bottas 5th, Max Verstappen in 6th. There's a yellow flag down in towards the last couple of corners. Somebody's running very, very slowly at the moment. I think there's 2 drivers there at the moment. Looks like one of them might have just been held up by the guy. Looks like it might be Max Verstappen, who is in that train of cars, unfortunately running really slowly, and that is either a mechanical issue for the Red Bull driver, or it could possibly be a puncture. I'm not too sure which one it is, as there's debris down towards turn 1 as well. Not too sure who that has come off, but let's have a look at replay. On board now with Max Verstappen as he goes down in towards Stowe, following this train as Lewis Hamilton overtook Felipe Massa for 2nd place. And Max Verstappen, is he fine? He looks like fine. Oh, okay, I've heard it. There's a rear right puncher on his car. I've got good ears to hear that puncher, but he has got a rear right puncher, unfortunately, for the Red Bull drivers. He tries his best at the moment just to get out of the way of the other drivers, just get off the racing line at the moment. I can tell you while we're just talking about it at the moment, there's some really weird shadows at the British Grand Prix when the rain comes out. You can see on track at the moment there's some sort of like grid shadows, like squares and stuff like that. Not too sure what on earth is going on, as while we're talking about shadows, Esteban Ocon goes straight into the back of Max Verstappen here today. That has really damaged his front wing. That's good news for myself, as if that's going to cause Esteban Ocon to slow down, that may give me the chance to take away this 8th position from the Force India driver, but just go straight into the back, and that is a lot. That is a significant amount of front wing damage to the Force India car. So Esteban Ocon is surely going to have to come back into the pits for today's race. And look at this here on lap 6, now catching up to the Force India drivers. We go through Maggots and Beckers into Chapel now. We're not too far off the Force India driver, 6/10 of a second right now behind Esteban Ocon. But will he be coming into the pits, or will we have to drive around Esteban Ocon. We'll just have to wait and see. Let's go down in towards Stowe, closing up so much on Ocon, all the way down towards Stowe. And it looks like, yes, he is coming into pits for today's race. So easy overtake there on the Force India driver. Moving up into P8. That's 4 points on board at the moment. We'll be looking to try and hold on to these. But Grosjean is pushing. He is really quick at the moment, and he will be looking to catch up to me within the next couple of laps as well. So we do have to be aware of Romain Grosjean. Talk about Grosjean, he is right on my tail now here on lap 11 of this British Grand Prix. We do have to be careful, but Felipe Massa into the pits very early on, about 3 laps earlier than the usual pit window. So we're not too sure what sort of strategy Massa is going for, whether he is still going for the one stopper, or maybe he might be pushing towards a 2-stopper here today. But he's come out just ahead of me. We're not really going to fight him too much. There's not really any point in fighting Felipe Massa, because if he is on the 1 or on the 2-stop strategy, no doubt he will still come out ahead of us, and we are sort of 1 pit stop behind him at the moment. So there's not really too much point in battling with Felipe Massa at the moment. So we've run it very deep in towards turn 3. That's giving Romain Grosjean a chance round the outside in towards the loop section. Here we go, side by side with Romain Grosjean. A little bit of a tyre bang between the two of us. We go it down in towards the Wellington straight. Now, great exit though from Romain Grosjean. It looks like he is going to get the job done in the run down towards Brooklands and Luffield. But here we go, back up the inside, braking a little bit later there than the Haas driver. And a nice manoeuvre back up the inside, down in towards Brooklands and Luffield. Gets us the job done, and we hold on to P8 for the time being. But a bit of a nervous moment there in this British Grand Prix. Romain Grosjean is pushing, and he is putting me under a lot of pressure right now in today's race. But now we're cutting ahead to lap 14 of the British Grand Prix, and I believe it is pit stop time in today's race, and yes it is. Here we go, coming into the pits for the British Grand Prix, getting the car slowed down for the line. Very tricky one, 37 miles an hour. It's very, very early on, and one of the slowest and longest pit lanes in the whole entire F1 calendar. It's just so long, and so, you know, it just takes ages, and you just want to get on the power, and you want to get underway once again. But unfortunately, you've just got to sit at 37 miles an hour all the way down here. But luckily, everybody has to go through this, and this is why this circuit is always better to do the least amount of stops as you possibly can, because you're going to lose the least amount of time as well, because it's about 30-second pit stop. Maybe more, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screens. Coming down towards the pit lane exit now. We're getting up towards the 35 seconds, even longer than that. 37 seconds, 37.4 seconds. You're going to lose out if you take a pit stop here today. Okay, you are still running with a bit of speed, so it probably works out about 32 seconds. But we come out still in P9 for today's race, which is pretty good here at the British Grand Prix. So we've only lost out 1 position at the moment, and that's because Carlos Sainz is yet to come into the pits for the British Grand Prix. So no doubt within the next couple of laps he'll still come into the pits, and actually he is coming into the pits now. Carlos Sainz into the pits here on lap 14 of this British Grand Prix. And looking at the engine wear at the moment, we're struggling quite a bit with the MGU-H. That's 90% worn right now, so we do have to be careful with that one. But also the gearbox, 65% worn on that one, so we're sort of, you know, taking it easy on the car. And unfortunately at this stage we actually are really under pressure from Romain Grosjean. That's costing us quite a bit at the moment, and while we're trying to, you know, save the engine but also try and stay ahead of Romain Grosjean, it's a really difficult task right now, but we're trying our best. The gap at the moment, 4/10 of a second. It's only really a one-way battle for 8th place at the moment. The two of us are miles ahead of the guys behind us, but also miles away from the guys ahead of us, as the wear on the engine is getting worse and worse as we go down in towards Stowe, and the inevitable happens. Romain Grosjean dives up the inside in towards this corner. We try to hold it around the outside, but unfortunately just couldn't do so. Then we try to think maybe we'll go for a switchback maneuver, get better exit, but unfortunately we couldn't do that either. And down towards Club Vale, we have to sort of give up on the P8. Unfortunately, Romain Grosjean just too quick for us at the end of the day with this engine wear, and unfortunately Romain Grosjean runs away with P8. We've dropped down into P9. It is still points in today's race, and if anything else happened, of course, in this wet weather, then we could possibly catch up to those guys. But yeah, looking at the moment on a race, and unfortunately at this stage we've actually lost 5th gear. That's why we sort of lost the back end down through that corner. Just watch the gears as we go in towards 2nd now as we go through the loop, but we've lost 5th gear, which isn't too bad at the end of the day. Luckily this is a circuit where there are quite a lot of high-speed corners that you can run in 6th, 7th or 8th gears. But it is a little bit annoying when you get into the likes of Luffield, the loop, or possibly down towards Club and Vale. That's the only real places that we are struggling in today's race, but losing the back end a little bit as well as we're cutting ahead to the last lap now as we're under pressure from Kimi Räikkönen. We're going to let him through, though. No point battling with him as we're not really battling with anybody else. Carlos Sainz is closing in on us, but not by enough of a rate to really go for that attack at the end of the race. Unfortunately, now this will be our last lap. We won't be able to do the full 26 laps, which, to be fair, probably really helps us out with the wear of our engine. 97% worn was our MGU-H there. So we really do need to watch out for that one. But through the last lap now, following behind Kimi Räikkönen, it's just a case of, can we get this car to the end of the race? Fingers crossed we can, otherwise it's going to be really disappointing to do 26 laps or 25 laps of this race and lose out on the final lap because of engine issues that I forgot to switch out at the end of the day. It's going to be so frustrating. But here we go, in towards Copse Corner, just taking it nice and easy at the moment, just trying to stay ahead of Carlos Sainz, but at the same time, take it nice and easy and make sure that we don't push the engine too much at the end of the day. In towards Maggots, Beckett, and then Chappell, as Kimi Räikkönen's really pushing on in this race. He has a huge lead over the likes of Lewis Hamilton and the other guys currently on the podium as well. But Kimi Räikkönen into the last couple of corners now. We're also coming down in towards Stowe as we're just going to come on to end our race here at the British Grand Prix. It's not really been the best of home Grand Prix for myself. It's been a great race, though, for this man, Kimi Räikkönen, who comes into the final section of corners, in towards the Club and Vale section. What a fantastic, dominant race he has today. He got pole position, and he comes across the line to win the British Grand Prix. We're going to come across the line for P9 as well. It's 2 points on the board at the end of the day. Not the best of home Grand Prix, but not too bad for our first one in this underperforming Renault car. So there you have it, 9th position at the end of the day in the British Grand Prix. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best of results at our home Grand Prix. We would have loved to have a much better one, but 9th place is not too bad at the end of the day. I still get 2 points, and I will take that. Kimi Räikkönen, though, wins today's race by 13 seconds over Lewis Hamilton, with Daniel Ricciardo making it onto the podium in P3. Sebastian Vettel works his way up through the field once more and gets up into P4 with Valtteri Bottas 5th. Then Sergio Perez finishing in 6th with Felipe Massa 7th. Romain Grosjean beating me to 8th position and taking away those 4 points. Myself finishing in 9th with Carlos Sainz getting the final point for today's race. Unfortunately there, Nico Hülkenberg just missing out on the points. Of course, we do need to get as many points as we possibly can for the constructors. Unfortunately, P11 is just not going to cut it. We both need to improve in this season and start to get maybe around the sort of P6, P7 area like we have seen the Force Indians do this season. But Esteban Ocon also missing out in P12 and Danny Kvyat is in 13th. With Marcus Ericsson in 14th, Pascal Wehrlein 15th, and Fernando Alonso 16th. Lance Stroll all the way down in 17th after that first lap incident with Kevin Magnussen 18th. Stoffel Van Dorn in 19th, and Max Verstappen all the way down in P20 after that puncture really costing him in today's race. Drivers' Championship then after 10 rounds of the season. We're currently in P7 still in the standings, 50 points on board, and that is 11 points ahead of our closest rivals of Sergio Perez and Felipe Massa. Those guys, though, have been on good form in the last couple of races. We do have to be aware of that. Those guys could be catching us up over the course of the rest of the season. Esteban Ocon, we know that he can do well in that Force India as well. So we do have to be aware of those guys. They can certainly overtake us in the next couple of races. So just need to be aware of that and make sure we get some good results in the next couple of races. So fingers crossed we can do that. And finally, looking at the Constructors' Championship. And unfortunately, with that result from Sergio Perez, he bumps Force India above us at the end of the day. There's only 1 point separating the two teams. There is still a chance to regain that 4th position for the Force India team. But we need myself to get better results than this P9 here today. And of course, Nico Hülkenberg to get some good results for the team too. But that is it for today's race. We're not going to end the episode here because Emma needs to have a little word with us.
Hey, quick question. How are you here? Are you happy? I mean, obviously, I hope so, but you do have some other options if you're up for a new challenge. Let me just grab the door. I had a call from another team a few weeks ago, and, well, things have moved on since then. These are the offers I've managed to put together for you. You don't have to do anything with them, but let me know what you think.
So it looks like we have a few contract offers for today's race, which is really interesting at the halfway stage of the season. Which teams have put offers in for myself? Of course, it's stay as Renault, and the two teams that are only really interested are McLaren, Honda and Sauber at this stage of the season. And we're not really going to go with either of those teams. I'm determined to stay with Renault. I'm probably going to stay with them for a couple of seasons, maybe even 3 seasons in this career mode. I want to build Renault up at the end of the day and get them to a championship winning car. So fingers crossed we can do that in this career mode. So I'm going to unfortunately have to say no to McLaren, even though I really do like the team. And unfortunately have to say no to Sauber, but I don't really want to drive for 2 teams which are worse than Renault at the end of the day. So it's not really a sideways step. It is a backward step if I went to either of those teams. So what I'm going to do, stay at Renault for the rest of the season and hopefully get some good results with the team. But that is it for this British Grand Prix. If you have enjoyed the episode, don't forget to smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so for daily Formula 1 content, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. And also leave a comment down below, what did you think of today's race? And I will see you next time at the Hungarian Grand Prix. But until then, it's goodbye from me.